All right, can the back row hear me? You guys good? Okay. Weird facing this way. We're usually facing the other way. Well, first, thank you everybody for coming to tonight's meeting. Second, I guess, is let you know that this is being recorded. So there's audio and visual, and it will be available on YouTube. It will be available on YouTube probably within 24 hours after the meeting. So just so everybody is aware. There will be time for questions and comments at the very end. So what we'll do is ask people to kind of come down the center, and we'll have a microphone that you can use. Also wanted to do a couple quick introductions of people that are here today. So wanted to thank the mayor of Box Elder, Larry Larson, for coming down to this meeting today. Also planning staff, there's Brittany Molitor, who's our environmental planning supervisor. Jerry, who's one of the administrative assistants in our offices. I'm PJ Conover, the director of the planning department. And what we're here to do today, we're not here to find out who's to blame. We're not here to point fingers. We're going to give you just kind of a quick snapshot of your subdivision, kind of how we got to where we are today. And we'll also give you a couple possible solutions that you guys can take charge of and solve this problem on your own with some help from governmental agencies. But we can't do it. You guys have to do it on your own. Just so you know also, we have representatives from the Department of Environmental and Natural Resources from Pier. Erin Dreiss is in the audience today, and she'll be talking later. And also Mike Perkovich, who's an Engineer Manager 3 from DENR, is also on the phone. Mike, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. So what I want to do is give you kind of a quick snapshot of your subdivision. So anything that's highlighted in orange are lots that are undeveloped at this time. So there is potential for even further growth in your subdivision. There's over 160 address points, which means there's over 160 residential units in your subdivision. So all of them are drawing electricity, all of them are drawing water. In all, there's over 230 lots in your subdivision. This is a current picture of how many of the properties are paying into your road district. I know you have regular road district meetings. As you can see, the entire subdivision is not paying in at this time. This is an older picture of your subdivision, but what it points out is a couple things. Is the items in green are the undeveloped roads right now, but I do believe there are some plans to develop those in the future and possibly build on some of those undeveloped lots. And again, this is kind of put sideways so it fits on the screen. The items highlighted in yellow are the drainage easements that go through some of the properties. And also that orange is the only really regulated ingress and egress in your subdivision. We know that there's one being used to the south of that, but that's pretty much the only official one to get in and out of your subdivision. So here we are today. Oh, everybody, this is Commission Chair Deb Hadcock, thank you for coming today. So kind of how we got here today. During a meeting in October, we were told by Bob Kaufman, Public Works Manager, Director for Box Elder, that there may be, that Box Elder, when water was no longer available, may stop supplying water to the tank owned by the Deutsch brothers that feeds the water system for your subdivision. In November of 2016, county staff was tasked with organizing a meeting with some of the key players. So this would be the city of Rapid City, people from the county, the Deutsch brothers, people from DENR, to get around and kind of discuss what some of the solutions are. Between December and May, pretty much the people that were in attendance in that meeting were trying to come up with some solutions, but a lot of it was put on the brothers who had inherited the water system to come up with some solutions on their own. And, excuse me, in May of 2017, while all this was going on, so May of this year, we got a letter from Box Elder, and this is from Ron Cohen, Planning Director with Box Elder, letting us know that Box Elder had passed a resolution that they would not be issuing any new water taps. Water is still flowing, but they weren't going to be issuing any new water taps. So for us, as the entity that issues building permits, that was a concern, because our zoning ordinance requires, especially in this subdivision, the lot size and what you're zoned, the units have to be connected to a community water system. And with the resolution that was passed, and what we had known about the potential of the water being turned off at some point, it raised a concern for us. So we actually took, that's a picture of the tank in question for those who don't know. So we wanted to take it to the Board of Commissioners. And in between that time, there were two, there were two building permits that were applied for two of the empty lots, lots 11 and lots 12 in the subdivision. Staff had talked with the applicant and the developer, and they understood that there was going to be some extra scrutiny on this because of what we knew about the water system. And as long as water would be available, those building permits could get issued. And there was a motion that was passed by the Board of Commissioners for the county that basically said that they would support staff's temporary suspension on building permits in Valley Heights until such a time as the lots are connected to a community water system. Those two building permits that were in question for lots 11 and 12 did obtain the proper permits from Box Elder to be connected to that community water system. So we had no reason to hold those building permits anymore, and they were issued. So if you see construction on lots 11 and 12, they did everything they needed to do to get there. So that's why they're there. We have not had any more residential building permits in that subdivision applied for since. If you wanted to do a shed or a garage and it needed a building permit, that's different than a structure that needs water. So don't think that all building permits are out. This is a letter that was received by our office by Bob Kaufman from Box Elder, and highlighted in green, I don't know if you can see it, but it says, and I won't read the whole thing, but it says, in case of water services to the Valley Heights Estate subdivision, the city has a contract with Mike Deutsch and his heirs to provide service for up to 400 taps if water is available. And you can't really see it here, but it says if water is available, and that's the key phrase there. In September of this year, that was approved, so I kind of got ahead. So this, after our meeting, this was made, well, it was always public before, but it also had the front page of the newspaper twice within a week. So it was out there in the public. There's been a lot of talk about some agreements that were floating out there. This is one from 2001, and this is another one between 2007. Now, we're not the lawyers, and we're not going to go through this. I do have copies of both of these if anybody wants them. But this is the most current copy from 2007, and I just wanted to highlight one section. It's kind of in gray at the top, and it basically says that water will be provided subject to water availability. In talking with, or in communicating with Ron Cohen, the director in Box Elder, water is still flowing, water is still planned to flow until water is no longer available or they need to, and I don't get the wording right, direct it to somewhere else in the city. What that time frame looks like, we don't know. There is some concern about the structural integrity of the tower itself, and that was brought up by Bob Kaufman early on. We have heard, I believe, originally 4 to 5 years. I have also heard up to 2 years. So we don't really know, but these are the facts, and that's what we're presenting to you. This is a map provided by Ron Cohen that shows all the water lines basically in Box Elder. The item down and highlighted in red at the bottom is the tower, the line, and your subdivision. Now, to make one thing clear, Box Elder does not own the tower. They don't own the line underground. They provide the water to the tower, and the tower and everything to your faucet is the water's all the Deutsch brothers. Is that correct, Larry? Okay. So here's kind of a snapshot that the tank at the top, they provide the water, goes down the line in the yellow, and then into your subdivisions. This is one of the schematics we have of the water system for your lots. So that's kind of a snapshot of what's happened and how we are where we are today. So what's going to happen next is I'm going to give you a really brief introduction of special district formation for a sanitary district. Basically, you guys have a road district, so you're familiar with that. But it's basically an option for you to create a taxable entity so you can, and I may really butcher this, but apply for grants through the state to kind of help fix this problem. But it really is going to be your decision as a community on what you want to do, and you guys got to get together on this. We wanted to have somebody from the auditor's department here today to explain this, but those that know sanitary districts the best are not available. What they did provide, though, and what we have copies of, is their instruction forms. It also has a lot of the South Dakota codified laws on it for sanitary districts. This and those agreements from 2001 and 2007 will be made available at the back of the room. We don't have enough copies for everybody here, but if you want, I can just give you I can give you my business card, and we can get email started, and I can get them to you. A sanitary district is just one of the options that you have as a community. So what we're going to do next is we're going to allow the staff from South Dakota Department of Environmental and Natural Resources to kind of present what they have. Mike, still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and Mike, I'm going to give you the floor.
All right, thank you. I guess you did mention that there are a couple other options that, other than sanitary districts available, and I will go over those a little bit. And we don't do these often, so I understand the formation a little bit, but can kind of talk about it. I know I did have Aaron have a couple handouts there that shows these different districts and what they can do. But the other option is a water user district, and they can sponsor and implement local water and wastewater projects. Water user districts do not have taxing authority. The formation is they have to have a petition submitted to the Board of Water and Natural Resources, which is one of the boards that we deal with through the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. And that petition has to contain 25% of the landowners. So what somebody from our department would have to do is go out to the county and try and figure out how many landowners are in that district, and then determine if the petitions were valid and if they had the correct number of signatures on them. And then I think it's just there's no election required. I believe then it's just filing with the Secretary of State. The other option available is to form a non-profit corporation. A lot of the regional water systems throughout the state are formed through a non-profit corporation. There's no election required, no petitions required. Basically, it's you write up some articles of incorporation, and that's filed with the Secretary of State. And those articles of incorporation include things like how many board of directors you're going to have, the purpose for which the corporation is formed, and there's a whole list of things I think there's 10 things in the statute that need to be addressed. The one thing that, nonprofit corporations can do a lot of things, and it all depends what they put in that article of incorporation. One kind of caveat I always talk about with nonprofit corporations, and maybe this isn't a concern for Valley View Heights, but a nonprofit corporation is not eligible for our Clean Water State Revolving Fund loans, which I would talk about later when it's appropriate, but they are eligible for our Drinking Water State Revolving Fund homes. So if you do form as a nonprofit corporation, and at some time you are looking at putting in a central wastewater collection system or a treatment facility, then you would probably have to go back you would have to go back and form as either a sanitary district or a water user district to access the low-interest loan funds that are available through our department. Guess that's what I have to say about those other two options. Guess if there's any clarification or questions or whatever, I can try and answer those now.
Okay, Mike, hold on. Aaron's coming up front.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Erin Dreis. I'm an engineer 2 with the drinking water program, and I'm actually located right here in Rapid City. We have a small regional office that's over on West Main. So tonight, if there's anyone that needs further clarification or further handouts, you can always stop into our office and see me directly. I do have some handouts that Mike was talking about. I have about 6 copies. This is a special purpose water and waste districts and some good resources of different citations for the codified laws and what their purposes are for those districts, that if you want to take a look at and maybe call Mike at another time, you sure can. And I can give you my business card to reach out to me, and I can get you Mike's contact information too. But what I'm here to talk to you guys about is a regulated water system. Where does the state come in to ensure that there is safe water to drink? So the Drinking Water Program for the state of South Dakota implements the Safe Drinking Water Act as it's set forth by the EPA. We come into play when a water system has a community water source and serves 15 connections and or 25 people, whichever happens first, 60 days out of the year. So Valley Heights water system, as it is now, will need to be regulated as a public water system, and specifically as a consecutive water system. In the past, Valley Heights, there's some confusion about Valley Heights because of the billing service provided by Box Elder. The drinking water program's impression of the water system was that you guys were individual hookups or individually billed by the town of Box Elder, and that Box Elder actually owned the lines. Now, with the meetings that took place last year, the state has a better understanding of what is actually happening, and we actually view it as a consecutive water system because the lines and the water tower are owned by a private entity, and they are supplying you water through the use of Box Elder's water. So in between last year and now, what will be happening is Valley Heights will be regulated as a consecutive water system, which means that a certified operator will need to be hired on as soon as possible. And then there are 3 different testing that needs to be done within the distribution system. These are all things that are required by the Safe Drinking Water Act. They're pretty minimal for a consecutive system. There are things like bacteriological testing. We're looking for total coliform. That's a monthly sample, a once-a-month sample. And then there's lead and copper, which is initially here, it'll be twice in this first year. It'll be 1 round of 6-month monitoring at 5 locations. Those are about $30 an analysis. And then you'll do it again. The certified operator will do it again for the water system in the next 6 months of the year. And then that's pretty much disinfection byproducts is another test that would be done come next fall, which is a relatively inexpensive test. But those things would be carried out then for the life of the water system as it is continued to be served by the same source. So what I am here to do and what we would do for Valley Heights is to ensure that there is safe drinking water. And we would be working with the owners of the water system, which from our understanding is still the Deutsch brothers, and we'd work with them to get that certified operator on board, and then start taking these bacteriological testing starting November 1st. So, sure.
That's something Box Elder does currently. They do all the inspections currently, right?
The question was, is that something that Box Elder does currently? I don't for sure. I think that they might do some bacteria testing within Valley Heights. I can't confirm or deny that. If they do that, that's on their own. If they do, that's not submitted directly to us. They, for their own parts of their water system, yes, they are regulated. So the source water that they're providing you guys, that is turned into us, and that is safe to drink. These things are distribution system testing that could be influences the tests that we do for consecutive water systems are called distribution system testing because they can be influenced by work that's being done on the distribution system, which would be the pipes in your development. So that would be out of Box Elder's control, in essence. I'll have some copies of stuff if people have questions later.
It was actually a good lead-in with that one question. So if anybody has any questions right now, you got the microphone? Show of hands, anybody?
When you say you have to hire somebody to do this testing,
No.
who is you?
Well, the owners of the water system at this
Well,
time.
the Deutsch brothers are
Right.
supposed to do that.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry for that clarification not given earlier.
Anybody else?
How active have the Deutsch brothers been with any of this at this point in time? I mean, have they been responsive to you guys? I'm not good at microphones. Yeah.
The three of them attended the very first meeting that we had. I haven't been in direct communication with them. That was another staff member. The question is how responsive have the brothers been? So,
Every time I've called them, they've called me back.
so they've been responsive. Yeah, I told them that.
That's all right. Who, from the water tower to our development, there's residents in between there and on the other side of Radar Hill. Where are they getting their water from? Yeah, is they private wells? Is that? I mean, I just seen they put in a double or a trailer, and they dug the water line into that water line that I presume comes to our development. There's only one water line up there, right?
I don't know.
There's a lot of unanswered questions here. I mean, I think we're getting the toilet paper end of the deal here.
A lot of questions, a lot of questions. You have another one?
Well, no, actually, to answer his question. When I met with Bob Kaufman, he stated that Morning View had Box Elder residents that was tapped into the water line after that. That was also something that the Deutsch brothers, or not the Mike Deutsch and the city of Box Elder had a disagreement about because of how Box Elder tapped it in and didn't pay him for the taps before he passed away. So my understanding is Morning View does have Box Elder residents that are being serviced after the tower from the water line.
It's outside the city limits, right?
Yep. Well, actually, I was told that reason why they supplied them was because they were in the Box Elder city limits on Morning View, and the mayor's agreeing with me right now.
I think there was a question to back. Just one thing about when the brothers were there in November, my recollection is they didn't really even know about that when they didn't know what they inherited. But like Brittany had said, they've been responsive. I think they're trying to figure out what to do about the issue. Question back here? Over here?
My question is, has anything in the, I really don't, I'm sorry.
What-
Has anything like this ever happened in?
So the question was, is anything like this happened in Pennington County before? And nothing that I'm aware of. This is a new situation. And that's why we're having a public meeting. That's why we've been trying to find the solutions.
Auburn Hills, they were kind of.
I'm not familiar with that situation. Do you? Auburn Hills? Yeah. So that's probably a good question for city. Yep. Hold on, sir. I'll be right there.
So even if Valley Heights were to form a water district, where would they get their water from? I mean,
That's where you would, if you had your own water district, we would recommend working with an engineer to explore what those options are, to either look to a new well to supply your guys' development, or regionalized water systems, which would be a much bigger conversation in the future, but that would be, you would need guidance of consultant engineers on that.
And a follow-up to that. That's fine. Great answer. Not really, but since the housing development right down the road, had a well, and it was bad water. We're higher. And, I guess, you know, if somebody were to come back and say, well, you could always have Box Elder supply the water, well, if we get the kind of language that we got in the other agreement that says until available, then we're hosed on that end as well. I think there needs to be some questions answered on a statutory basis. First of all, one question that comes to mind for me is, can people just shut our water off? I'd like to know that, and I'd like to know where the Supreme Court is on that. You know, we've seen it happen in Rapid City, and we've seen the abuse that the Rapid City Common Council has taken on that. And we've been out there, we were the 6th house out there. I'm not ready to give up my real estate just because nobody seems to care about 200 houses. That's not the business I've been in, and I know it's not the business my wife has been in. So I sure hope somebody starts caring about people again.
You know, I just wanted to make, you know, a couple things clear because the newspaper was somewhat misleading. We only started talking to Pennington County and Rapid City and the Deutsch brothers to make them aware that there could be issues in the future. We, at this point, have no plans to shut anybody, you know, down as far as water goes. We wanted to make them aware if that tank falls over, it's not our tank, and that somebody needs to be prepared for that because it's not ours. We certainly wouldn't pay for it. But it only related to new hookups. We have no plans to shut any of you guys off in the near future. The only thing I could see ever happening that would cause that would be, again, like if the tank should, you know, fall over, or maybe one of our wells would go dry or something, and we'd have to do something like that. But we actually have plans in the next 2 to 4 years to dig another well also. So I don't foresee anything happening as far as you know, the amount of water that we have. We're just being cautious for the residents that are in the city limits, and that's why we're not allowing any further hookups outside the city limits. But as far as those of you that are hooked up, you know, you've got time to, again, be thinking about how do you solve this problem, you know. And I could throw out a couple options that I thought of. I mean, we had talked to Rapid. They weren't excited about the fact that they would have to pump the water up to the far end there from that other housing division to the south. But maybe if you form some type of water district, you could then, that would help pay for the pumping of that water. That would be a suggestion. And maybe what Rapid City would be interested in that. I don't know. They're the only ones that can annex you. We can't even annex you even if we wanted. There's a law that says we can't do that. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure you know that we're not going to shut you off. We don't have any plans to do that. We just simply wanted to make everybody aware that there may be some concerns.
With Box Elder, if it's my understanding is correct, years ago, Box Elder put in extra wells, and did they not get some, well, the grant money, other funding from the state, or maybe federal even, that help pay for well based on the populace you're supporting? And therefore, again, to not support us anymore or figure, well, we're going to build other houses within the city, so we're going to have to cut you off later, seems a little wrong because we were part of that equation that got you extra funding for wells.
I actually don't know if that was considered in any of the funding that we got. I don't think we would have counted you just because you're not part of the city. We always have to count, you know, what's actually in the city limits. So. That's possible. I really can't answer that. I'd have to talk to our Public Works, and we'd have to go back and look at, all the wells and the grants. I don't honestly think it would make that much difference as far as what we're doing right now, as far as providing you water or whatever. Again, like I said, we're not planning to, at this point, to shut anybody off or anything.
I checked into having a well dug up there. Some of us live on a hill, and the guy came up, said it would cost you way too much money to put a well in this development, and you're way too far above the water table. You'll have no water pressure, and I wouldn't guarantee the quality of the water. So we need a plan B.
Yeah, and I wouldn't suggest digging a well myself anyway, just because obviously the housing area that's to the south there, that somebody mentioned it, they had dug a well, it was bad, and that's how they ended up, I think they got a grant of some kind, and then got Rapid to bring water up to them. It seems to me logical that maybe something similar to that could allow that line to come up to you guys. I don't know, but
Any question? Hold on one second.
I appreciate what you've said, and you and I have worked on projects together. And I think that's altogether a good thing. But would Box Elder entertain if a water district was formed, supplying the water under those same circumstances? Because I don't think anything would change in terms of the geographic layout and how things were. Would that be an option?
I would have to check. I mean, if legally there's nothing prohibiting us from doing that, I would think that we would. It's just my opinion. I don't know what the council would do. We'd still have to be concerned about what happens to the tank, because the city certainly wouldn't want to take that tank over and be responsible for it. So now if there was money in some grant to maybe, I don't know, let's say put up another tank or something to that effect, there's probably something that could be worked out that we would provide the water to you. There's got to be some kind of something that could be worked out like that, I would think. But I certainly don't know for sure.
Thank you for waiting. Appreciate it.
I just need some clarification. I've heard two things. When you first came up, you said 2 to 5 years, we're going to be out of water. We're going to be shut off. Mayor, you just said you're not going to shut us off. I've heard two different things. Which is it? Either Box Elder is going to be done with this in 2 to 5 years, or you're not going to be done with this at all unless the water tower or the lines go bad.
So I don't think there's any plans that I know about from the city that says anything about in 2 years or 5 years or whatever that we've got any plan to shut you off. And I'm not sure, what were you referring to as far as the 2 to 5 years? I guess I don't.
So those were time ranges given by Ron and Bob over the last year.
So I'll ask a question. So we're talking about the infrastructure on this tower. Isn't that one of the issues? So even if you had water, would you have the infrastructure? And it's got to be repaired. There's got to be something done with the tower and the lines that are coming from that tower. So that's your first issue. So even if you had water, would the tower support it in the first place? So you've got many issues here, and we're here today to try to find alternatives and solutions to that, and we need your help. We're asking you, what are you thinking? And the other thing is I guess I need to ask Mike from DENR, how does it work where there's this many houses on a line that the infrastructure has went down, and they might not have enough water, and they kept building, and we issued them building permits thinking that there was always enough water there. But you just said that this district, and maybe you don't know, Mike, that they have to be checked and they have to go through those coliforms and all this other stuff. how is it missed that, and maybe you guys, and I thought you regulated water and wells and different things, how is it missed that this tower and this infrastructure and this water system doesn't have enough water to serve 200 people in the first place? Or
I
200
might have to
houses,
defer to
maybe
Aaron
200
on that one,
houses.
because I don't deal with the regulatory aspect of testing and things like that, so I don't know, Aaron, if you have anything there?
I mean, if this has been going on with no testing and we're serving these houses, I don't know if it's 200 houses, but the residents that are out there and these tests and these things haven't been done for this water system, is maybe I heard wrong?
So there was misunderstanding beforehand, before last year, and we had the kind of the stakeholders meeting. When we were, the state drinking water program, which regulates if the water is safe to drink or not, set forth by the EPA, we were under the impression it was confusing with the billing, what we now understand is a billing service that Box Elder provides. We were under the impression that each home was an individual user of Box Elder, not as its own system. We were under the impression that Box Elder owned the lines.
But don't they have to come to you for the permit, if I'm correct, when you have water systems, wells, or anything else for the state?
So they would have had to submit plans and specs for the pipes of the water system at that time. I don't know what those plans and specs looks like, but it would be my understanding that they would have had to have been approved. I can't speak, I don't know for sure without misspeaking on that. There would have had to have been an approval process of plans and specs ahead of time.
Thank you, Miss Aaron, but it seems like if there's a water tower going up and you're into drinking water and things, that somebody has to know something, unless you think Box Elder put it up and they were regulating through that. I guess that's would be my concern, is why it was never caught in one sense or the other. And that,
Commissioner, if I can, we're not lacking in water. We have
Right.
water. The infrastructure, as far as I know, and unless somebody's found out something different, and I heard things at Rapid City said that the infrastructure, isn't, as good as it probably should be. I find it hard to believe that they're willing to supply water to the park right down the road.
it's the tower, sir, if I'm correct.
If you're talking just strictly the tower, yeah, and that was through Box Elder's inspections.
Yeah, that'd be an infrastructure.
But you said initially that we weren't getting enough water, and that's not true. We are getting water, and we're getting plenty of water.
Well, if your tower goes down, sir, are you getting enough water?
The tower hasn't went down, Commissioner. The tower has not went down.
Okay, no one said it went down. We said that the infrastructure in it needs to be, the tower needs to be repaired. It needs to, when I kept hearing it on the dais before, it was about the tower and the infrastructure, and if that tower went down, then there wouldn't be any water coming from the tower, because you wouldn't have anywhere for storage.
I may be wrong, and maybe I'll have to look back
Right.
at the YouTube video, but what
Right.
you said was, how did it happen that we weren't getting enough water, and that the infrastructure was so poor? I might agree with you on the tower, but the mayor, I think, you all checked the tower and they couldn't check it or wouldn't check it, one of
Right.
the two.
Well, we're not talking about infrastructure like the lines. We're talking about infrastructure on the tower, sir.
I understand that.
Okay,
And
just so you know what I
I think I just
understood.
pointed at the mayor for that. What I corrected you on was the fact that we had water coming to our community at this point.
Right.
I'm going to bring it to the mayor, then I'll bring it back to you. Did you want to respond?
Yeah, just briefly, that tower is kind of what brought this to our attention since I've been mayor, was that we have all of our towers inspected, and the people that inspect them would not inspect that tower, basically saying it was basically put up wrong. I mean, you're supposed to have the cement up on top, the way I understand, and the bolts are up where you can inspect them. Because it was too high and the airport was out there, it had to be dropped down. Instead of cutting it off, they just buried it in the ground. So the bolts and everything are under the ground. So we don't really know. I mean, they might be perfectly good and it might last for 20 years and it could fall over next month. I mean, we just don't know. I'm thinking they're probably okay for a while. But, but that's the thing with the tank, so.
Couple questions in the back, I'll get.
I guess questions that I've got, a couple of them. First off is going to be, like Jeff had mentioned, we have plenty of water, but the water pressure in the case of a fire, like we've had a couple times, isn't there. They had to truck water in because there wasn't enough water pressure coming off the tower. The second question that I have is, apparently, from what I'm getting and understanding, is all the water testing and stuff's been done up to the tower for anything that's bacteria or anything else. But after it comes out of that, we don't know. So we don't know what we've been drinking for the last 10 or 15 years. And I guess the last question that I have, and no offense to Box Elder, but there's not a real solid, comforting answer in, we have no plans. Well, that's where things are going to start going wrong, because as soon as something goes south, we're the first ones thrown out the door.
But did Box Elder in the beginning, they said in the agreement, is that what you're saying? They said they would provide the water or because it's Pennington County out there, it's not Box Elder because it's not city limits. So you moved into Pennington County and you moved into a system that was on a tower. And with the understanding, and I don't know if people read the agreement, that there would be water until it wasn't any more water.
Well,
Until it was not available, as
Well,
as I
and there's
just
no-
saw number 7 on that agreement.
Right, and the question that I've got on it too is, so what are the parameters of, where's their cutoff point? You know, because like I said, I see a lot of building going on down in Box Elder right now, which is a bigger draw on more developments that they're doing. And I just see us getting pushed down further closer to this 2 to 7 year deal.
Right, but you're not in Box Elder city limits, you're in
No, I'm
Pennington
talking about the
County.
agreement that was
So,
signed between Box Elder
when
and the
you're a
brothers.
developer, and that's what I had said before, if you're a developer and you keep building lots and you don't have enough water, is it on the county or the Box Elder when that happens? Because what we do is we issue building permits. Box Elder believes, hopefully, and trusts that the developers know what they're doing as well. So when you do a development and you build for 50 homes, maybe I'm wrong, and you go in there and you're telling people you have water and you have sewer, and the water pressure fire flow has something to do with infrastructure. It has to do with sometimes you need a loop on that infrastructure. We had that on the north side. It'd be on actually, Haynes Avenue to the west, we had to put a loop in there because of the water pressure fire flow. That's all it was. It was kind of weird that you could put a loop, but it makes the difference. So it has to do with infrastructure. But you guys moved out there on a developer's notes saying you had enough water and sewer, and we issued the building permits. So I know we keep
You
coming
stopped-
back to
you stopped-
Box Elder, but
We don't have any more building permits out in that development right now, just those 2 that you just released, right?
no, I think we have, Mr. PJ can.
The last 2 residential building permits that were approved and applied for were 11 and 12. We haven't received anything else for that subdivision yet, as of today.
So we're here today as Pennington County, or I am, to try to find the solution of is it the tower? Is it the lines? Is it the water system? And sir, you're right, Mr. Haverly. I don't know all the answers, and I don't know if there was enough water, if there's not gonna be, that's why I said that. I'm here to help you, hopefully as Pennington County, with the state, that's why they're here to figure out what's the best solution. So we're here to answer your questions, but we also want to know, and you guys have the history, we do not. We need your history, and we need to know exactly where we need to go and what your wishes are in that area. Is it, if we fix the tower, supposedly it was a tower, that's what I kept hearing, and we put enough water in the tower, because Box Elder gets it from Rapid City, and Box Elder's gonna fill it again and keep giving you water, we're good. If they don't, the state needs to help us if they can, not needs to, that's a bad word. If they would help us with the solution of what we can do for grants and other things, either to fix the tower or do something so we have some water, and that development in Pennington County can keep operating, whether maybe Box Elder, like they said, if they don't have the water, that's fine. But where are we gonna go for the future? So you guys have homes and you can keep operating in your houses. Am I correct?
Commi-
See what I'm saying? So we are here for a solution today, sir.
Commissioner, there's one more question back here. If we go back here.
We can have a lot of questions, that's okay.
Oh,
We're good.
I'm not a good speaker, so bear with me.
That's okay, that's a good thing.
Hi. So for me, it kind of feels like we're just this subdivision that's been left in the middle of nowhere. We're not Box Elder, which I talked to the mayor this morning. We're not Box Elder. I feel like we're not Rapid City. We're 57703. We can't have their water. We can't have his water. It's all different. Why can't a simple fix be someone throw a class action lawsuit against these Deutsche brothers if they don't want to give us a tower? All we need is a tower, and then we petition to change the law so that we can join Box Elder.
Right. And
Wouldn't that be a simple fix if they're willing to take us and our taxes go somewhere where we know where our dollars are going? We use the schools. I know a lot of people don't like Box Elder, but we use their schools. We're already using their water. So don't you think we are Box Elder?
I appreciate that, but you're Pennington County.
Well, yeah, but yes, I know.
And-
We are Pennington County.
And the bottom line is maybe it is that 5013C, and we are, we don't feel like you're out there any different than we're Pennington County, and we have a lot of people out there with subdivisions that we're trying to say, have your infrastructure, before you build houses, before you developers build those things, and put 200 or 100 or 50 homes, check the water sources. And unfortunately, if you haven't been, and I can vouch for this, if you haven't been a commissioner, a council person, or in government, you don't know all that stuff sometimes. So then you buy a
A loan
house.
officer, it's bad enough.
But it's somewhat of our job, hopefully, to help with that. And that's why people were saying, well, they can go sue them, they can go do this and that. I always believe there's a solution to an answer, but you gotta work hard at it. And you gotta work to a point where everybody's gotta say, okay, what's our solution and where are we going? We can keep saying we don't have no water, we don't have infrastructure. Tell me your bottom line, and people know this about Pennington County, we get it done. What do we need to do to help with the state to get where we're going? So I came here to ask the state and PJ and you guys, where do we want to go? And we're probably not going to figure that out tonight, but where do we want to go? And then tell me the direct answers. Is it the tower? Does everybody know it's the tower? Does everybody know that we don't have water pressure fire flow? I figured you did. You didn't have a loop. Then number two, it's not the lines. Your lines must be good to your house. I saw there's 2-inch lines. There's some other lines. I didn't notice what line came from the tower. But there needs to be more than just, we're not going to have enough water. You're going to need infrastructure. You're going to need maybe the 5013C like the ma'am in the back said. And one thing I like to do is learn from this experience. And what I do is learn from you guys. If I have another, or PJ has another 10 subdivisions that this happens to, how can we help? And you're not out there by yourself because you're Pennington County. And we are here tonight to figure out where you guys are going.
We have a lot of questions. Mr. Mayor, did you have something before I go around the room?
Well, again, I understand somebody had made the comment, well, didn't necessarily make you feel good that if nothing happens, we're going to provide you water, because I see where you're coming from, because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, sure, the tower could fall over, a well could go dry. I mean, and at some point, I can't promise that we would continue to give you water forever and ever, but it's just my gut feeling that we are not going to shut you off, assuming everything goes forward. But the reason they got you here is so that you can help provide an answer as far as what do we do. Let's be proactive and think about what do we do about that tower, and what do we do for the future of all of you that live up there, so that we're not waiting till it happens, that's all. And that's why we wanted to bring it up.
We got one question back here, then I'm going to that side because you guys have been very patient.
Just quickly, Commissioner, I think one of the concerns I have as a homeowner is when we bought our home 12 years ago, no one disclosed this was a problem. So we've gone in there with the faith that we were gonna have water, we were gonna have roads, we know what happened with the roads. So the subdivision is a mess, but, you know, they wanna build another, I don't know, 100 houses out there. And until this came to light, I'm not entirely sure how we have not had a water inspection. We've had more than 25 houses up there for a long time. So my question is, as a homeowner, isn't there some requirement that that be disclosed to me before I made that purchase? And the state may have had a responsibility to make sure that the water was drinkable when I moved in. I still, to this day now, question if that's the case.
EJ, do you have, or Aaron, do you have any answers for either of those questions?
I don't have an answer for disclosures. That's kind of outside of our privy of things, but Aaron?
I don't have an answer on the disclosures either. I would have to reach out to our administrator on that exact language and what happens there. As far as the 25 homes, that is where it wasn't clear to us until now either that it was its own, that the city of Box Elder did not own those lines. And in that case, the way we don't, if you're an entity of Box Elder's water system, we regulate Box Elder. So we didn't know that until now. So we can say the city of Box Elder does supply safe water. That is who we regulate, and that is safe water to drink. That is why now we're moving forward to have a certified operator put in place and start the bacteriological testing.
My question is, if there's a problem with the tower and they have to replace or repair or whatever, what if the location isn't ideal? Because I know it's up on the hill and that was an issue with pressure coming from Rapid City. Is there another location to put a tower closer to us? Can some of the undeveloped lots in the back become part for a tower that runs Rapid City lines? Because I know the development just before us, the manufactured homes, they're in the process now of getting on Rapid City water, which I don't know exactly how that process is, but if that's something we can do, it's not but a mile up, just right there. And if we had our own tower closer, would it still give us enough pressure? Is that an option for us?
Well, I'm not an expert on that, and I think all the options will be explored, and they're gonna, part of this is, there's 3 options, and Brittany, is that from Mike, or? Okay, and then funding sources, and who's gonna be in charge of this? Because you're gonna have a group or a certified operator type person. I mean, how do you get there? Those things have to be, for me, I don't know about you guys, I have to have it laid out for me. I need a certified operator, I need this, this, and this, and this, and then, okay, now where are we going from here? So hopefully we can help you with some of laying some of that out, and then you guys need to follow through, and then we come back and keep saying, okay, what's next? Because this, and I don't know, is it the developer, is it who's responsible? I would guess in the bottom line, it'd have to be a developer that had a tower with lots and stuff, but I don't know that for sure, so.
We got 2 questions over here and then one over there. You're over in a minute.
I have a couple of questions. Mr. Mayor, if the tower was replaced, is that the main problem, is the tower?
Well, I think that's probably the main problem with it, as far as making everybody aware that something could happen and that we would not be responsible. Obviously, you know, there could be other problems. That's why I said if all of a sudden one of our wells went dry and we had to provide water only, you know, on a very skimpy basis to our residents, then we would have to look at, you know, shutting off those people that are not residents. I don't foresee that happening, but, you know, I certainly wouldn't promise that that wouldn't happen. I mean, and like I said, we have plans in the next 2 to 4 years to be digging another well. So, again, I'm only one person. The council would have to, you know, decide that if there's any reason they would want to, and I don't know why they would, but why they would want to shut this many residents, what is it, 160 or something like that, that houses up there. I certainly don't know why they would want to shut that many residents off. Again, looking at what can you do, there's some options that everybody's talked about. Obviously, the well didn't work and the other subdivision is probably not gonna work for you. So it kind of leaves a couple things. One, somehow hooking up to Rapid City and figuring out how you're gonna do that. Or somehow fixing that tank and somehow then working with Box Elder to figure out what can we do in Box Elder then to make sure that it's a stable situation. One or the other, I would think, would be the way
The
to go.
bottom line is it's about you and your future out there. And if you're relying on Box Elder and they were telling you if available, I'm sorry, that was not working for me. So I'm gonna look at other options to say, if Box Elder doesn't want, or that's not fair. If doesn't have the water first, you guys are gonna be shut off. I can tell you right now, if you're gonna tell me that, I'm gonna work to the other solutions to figure out how I can be more self-supporting, unless they should be used maybe as a emergency, Box Elder should, but there should be some other source. That's what, in my mind, where I would go for the future of my house or my development. That's just my point of view, though.
Well, I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't pull up my assessment, but I'm fairly certain that we pay, well, we did our road district so that we could have those monies that we each pay every month or every year. I'm pretty sure there's water. Where's that money going right now?
I can't tell you about road districts. I'm gonna be up straight.
I'm the water district. I mean, our water, I mean, don't we pay
West Dakota?
taxes to
Okay.
have?
Western Dakota, Brittany said.
So, like I said, we formed the road district so that the money we were paying wasn't just going to the county and we were getting nothing. We
Right.
weren't getting our roads fixed, we weren't getting the snow taken off, nothing. So we formed a road district so those monies would come back to us so we could take care of us. But aren't part of our property taxes for water? Isn't there a breakdown on all of that? Like I said, I didn't look at my assessment, I meant to. But if there is, I want to know who's getting that money. If the county's getting the money and is telling us, who I have no idea, I turn on the faucet and there's miraculously water. I see the tower, but I'm not an expert. You're telling us we need to come up with a solution. My solution is I turn on the water and there it is. I don't know what we're supposed to be doing.
Thank
I
you.
don't know.
Hold on a sec, ma'am. Brittany, can you, answer some of that? Are your taxes going for water? How are they, answer how that, if you can, Brittany. Brittany's our expert with a lot of.
But on taxes, but my
Taxes,
understanding
but
is it
water.
goes to West Dakota Water Development District, and it's a entity that provides different sources and projects and things like they sponsored the Black Hills hydrology study, and they do different things like that. I don't know if they would be an entity that could facilitate and help with this situation. I guess I have a couple of questions maybe for Mike before we kind of get in a different track. But Mike, what things could they get grants and loans for? I guess the biggest question too would be, is it, would a study, if they hired an engineer or a consulting firm to look at the situation, is there grants available for them to do that? Hello?
Mike's still on there?
Maybe not. Do you know Aaron?
Holly's working on getting Mike. We're going to go over to Erin and put her on the spot.
So the funding side of things, just to full disclosure, is not my specialty. So just knowing very little on the funding side of what I do know, I know that I'm not sure how it pertains to this situation. I know that we have had, there is a very small water system grant out there that would be able to provide money for a preliminary engineering study, which would be one of the first steps that would need to be done if you were going to be going to the state for further funding. One of the situations with the very small water system grant is that the water system would have to be owned by a nonprofit or a homeowners association. That would be one of the steps there, which would lead to Mike's previous discussion of forming that nonprofit entity as a water system. But that's really about as far as I can go on that without having Mike.
Be on there.
Mike, did you want to add on?
I guess Brittany just said she had a couple questions, and one of the ones that would there be any sort of money available for any sort of a study? And we do have a program for that, and it's called our Small Community Planning Grant Program. And you don't have to be a district to access those funds. We do provide those to homeowners associations to study their options. It's not a lot of money, but it's 80% of the cost of a study up to $8,000. And the contact person for that here is a gentleman named Andy Brules. And if anybody's interested in that, they can contact me or Aaron, and we can get Andy in touch of whoever he needs to be in touch with. It's basically a one-form application. It can be submitted any time, and again, it's up to $8,000. The other question Brittany posed was if the Valley View was able to secure water from some source and needed to do repairs to the water tower, are there grant and loan programs available for that? And yes, there are, but again, they would have to be formed as either a water user district, a sanitary district, or a nonprofit corporation. And, real quickly to touch on our grant and loan programs, we have a state grant program called the Consolidated Grant Program. It's very competitive. It's annual appropriation through the legislature based on some incomes that we get from video or online Powerball sales and contractors' excise tax and some other things. This year we're looking at about $7.5 million. So, that $7.5 million spread out statewide doesn't go very far.
We do have a legislator in that group, though, so maybe that might help us.
I understand that Senator Haberly does live in the district, so.
And an X1, so we should be able to get right down in there and get some money, right?
Well, we would, like I said, it's very competitive, and it depends on, the needs. Certainly there's a need out there. If there's a water tank that's in disrepair, I don't know what you guys pay for water now, but probably in order to qualify for any grant funds, probably have to be up in the, I hate to say this, but $80 or more for 5,000 gallons usage. We do have a low-interest loan program, our Drinking Water State Revolving Fund program, and currently the interest rates on that are 2.5% for terms up to 30 years. So, that's an option, but again, only a district or a nonprofit corporation can access those funds.
So, Mike, how long have you been with, you're with the DNR, am I correct?
Correct.
So, sir, just a little bit about water. This is just for information for me learning as a commissioner. So if I do a development, don't I have to go, once I'm over 15 lots, 15 to 25 if I'm correct, Aaron, don't I have to go and register or do something with the state for drinking water?
That is correct, and that kind of goes through Aaron's program. Again, I deal kind of more with the funding and not the permitting or regulatory stuff. So yes, there is a process to go through, but I am not familiar with it. Maybe Aaron may be.
And maybe the program, how long ago have they put up this tower and put in the infrastructure and everything? And was it different back then? I don't know how long you guys have been there, I'm not gonna lie, long time. Did the rules change on the DNR or something? And you gotta remember, he didn't just drill a well, he put up a tower. And not only did he put a tower, then he ended up platting all those lots. I don't know how many's out there again. And this all happened, and I didn't register, and he didn't register anything with the DENR. With this.
Again, if they're, this is a private developer. I deal with municipal or, public water systems that municipalities come to funding for us. That would be a question for our drinking water program on when that was. I think some of those permitting laws came into effect in the late 90s.
Right.
Again, a question for maybe Mark Mayer, the administrator of the drinking water program. I just can't help you because, again, I don't deal with private entities or the regulatory side.
But don't you, if there's, so just a question. So Box Elder's providing water. I'm outside of Box Elder. I'm doing a development. Wells, water, you guys regulate everything to do with that, right? So
Our drinking
do you know
water
any?
program does, yes.
Okay, so I'd have
Which
to
I am
go
not
to
part of.
the drinking water program in order to figure out how he did all this tower and everything else. And I think there's, one of the developers is here, and still kept building or kept doing what they do out there, having people think that there was enough water to provide to it, without anybody catching this whole time that there wasn't gonna be enough water for the future out there. And this developer telling everybody they did, but we don't regulate that through the state. How much water you can have or how much water you can take and put in that tower and build lots and provide 200 houses with it. We don't do that through the state.
Again, a question for the drinking water program, not the funding program.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So 2000, from the year 2000 to present, any developer that would come to the county to plot 10 or more lots would have to come through the drinking water program and follow a new water system planning process. It is under the capacity development program. Part of that is plans and specs, a business plan, and at the end of it, you have a certificate of approval and approved plans and specs from the South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources. I do regulate that on that new water system planning process on my side. I don't know what happened with the early development stages of Valley Heights. If it was under the impression that Box Elder was going to be taking on these individual hookups, it would be very unclear that they were going to be its own water system and not an entity of Box Elder.
So Ms.
So it could have been a misunderstanding at that time, and it wasn't made clear until now.
So Ms. Aaron, I think you answered my questions, that a lot of this came about in 2000. What were the rules before then is what we needed to look at, and that the rules have changed. And that's what I've seen in government is how things have happened before 1994, before, even with our regulations for our planning department didn't start coming around to, if I'm correct, PJ, till 1994. So some of this was happening beforehand, and that's how this predicament ends up happening. How about that, without any rules or regs in the county, so.
I know we have a lot of questions. I want to let Paramount talk real quick. Just start thinking, one of the things that we are looking for is a point of contact from your subdivision that we can work with to kind of move this forward. That's really what we're trying to do, is take some of the options, or one of the options we have, pursue that with the state, but we need a point of contact.
First, I'm not the guy that developed this. I just bought lots. Second, it was in 2001, you guys had your first water agreement. I think we're all forgetting that Box Elder overseeing the plating, overseeing everything that was done in Valley Heights, and it actually was platted through Box Elder. Box Elder overseeing what was going on. I think we're all forgetting that. That's how that ended up being, where she did not know that there was a private water source, is it was platted through Box Elder. And do you know if they still have the original stuff from the plat? I was told it was lost in a flood.
Well, there was, a lot of that stuff. I don't honestly know. I'd have to check with our Public Works.
So, from my understanding, the whole issue on this is, and your out is adequate water supply. We are beating a dead horse, we'll say it, that the tank is the issue. You have adequate water, but the tank is the issue. Is that my correct understanding?
Right now, I think,
Right now, is that?
right now, we're able to provide everybody that has water hookups with water.
Yeah. So, you as an entity of Box Elder, I'm saying you as Box Elder, are saying that tower falls over, there's 160 residents that have to figure out what is gonna go on. I know there's 14 residents tapped in on Morning View or Morning Star, whatever that is. From my understanding, there's a total of 40 people outside of Valley Heights Estates that is tapped into your water system from the Deutsches water infrastructure. So where's the conversation that's had? What happens to your 14 residents when that water tower goes down? Is it still all on Valley Heights? Is it still all on the Deutsch brothers? Or as everybody keeps saying, it's on the developer? And as the crosshairs on Force's back and myself, the crosshairs are on us as the developer. We walked into this subdivision with an agreement from 2001 that stated Box Elder was going to supply 400 homes off that water tower. The capacity was 400 homes from that water tower, from what I read in the agreement. We are at 210 homes, maybe, that I know from my understanding, plus what Box Elder has added on there. So Valley Heights and Paramount Point are saying it's up to us to figure out the problem, figure out the solution to the problem. When there's another 40 residents outside of Valley Heights, from my understanding, that are in the middle of this as well. 14 of those residents are your residents. So 14 homes, that tower falls down tomorrow, you have to figure out how to get water to 14 residents.
Absolutely, we do, yeah.
You know, so, I mean, I want to be a part of the solution. Forest wants to be a part of the solution. We have to figure out some kind of agreement or something that can say, this is what we're going to do, a plan of attack and move forward. We have the most to lose out of this. I mean, everybody has property values to worry about. In the last 5 years, the property values have went up tremendously out there. And with this coming on board, people can't sell their houses. I stopped construction on 2 houses because we don't know what's going to happen. You know, I can't move forward in good faith and say, I can sell you a home and you have adequate water. Because as of June 20 or June 10th or whatever it was, I knew there was a water issue. Before that, I had no clue. I'm a landowner out there, a substantial landowner, and I wasn't even brought into the conversations with the Deutsches and DNR and the city and all that. But Forrest and myself are the ones that are getting attacked on it. And it's being dropped at our feet right here that says, we need to figure this out. Because we have 65 houses to build out there still. There's a lot of issues with this subdivision. It all started at the city of Box Elder. All of it. You know, from the infrastructure and everything. The roads, all of it was platted through Box Elder.
Remember now, you're out of the city limits, so we don't regulate what your roads are like, how thick they are.
When this subdivision was developed back in 2001, you guys were the governing body. Box Elder, the city of Box Elder was. The city of Box Elder.
We might have platted it. I don't know when that changed.
The inspections and everything for the water lines and everything were done through the city of Box Elder.
But sir, he also inherited this.
Well, he did.
So
So
he's
did
trying,
everybody sitting in here.
well, we're trying to figure
We
it out.
all inherited it.
Yeah, but we didn't say you personally as a developer, we're talking about the other developers. And then when you guys came in and then you told me up front that you had no idea what was happening, now you're telling me you did. So, yes, sir, so we'll move forward. It's here to find solution and how we move forward. So, and when I was talking about developer, it wasn't you, it was the guy before him, sir.
The point is, you mentioned the 2001, there is a newer agreement, and again, it says, if available, that I suppose could be a matter of interpretation. If we're on water restrictions, the council could say, next summer, they could say, well, we're not able to provide everybody with water, we could shut you off. I don't think that's gonna happen, though. That's my point.
Okay, the
I
bottom
don't
li-
think they are, but
Okay, guys, the
we're trying to
bottom-
work with you on figuring out a solution. What that is, again, we don't know, that's why the ideas coming out here are good. Maybe hooking up to Rapid City, maybe something more with a tower and working with, Box Elder. I don't know what the solution is, but.
So the bottom line is, let's stop for just a second. I'm even getting excited. We need to figure out where we're moving from here, and those options. We can keep asking all the questions, and we keep saying there's no water, and we can keep saying what we're saying, and we are listening to you. But what are our options, and where are we moving forward from here? Where do we need to start? PJ, what's the start of how we move forward?
Well, one consistent point of contact from the subdivision or a couple people would be very good. That's kind of the starting point.
Okay.
When it comes to inspections of the water tower, we're saying we can't inspect 5 feet, so we can inspect it. Is that an option?
Well, there's more to it than that. Apparently, they wouldn't even they climb up in it and they go down in the tank. They wouldn't do that. I don't know honestly why they wouldn't do it. They just said they wouldn't inspect it.
Sir, hold on a sec.
It's still, even if it's buried, to me, that would be a risky thing for you to do. I don't know. That's before my time, before Bob's time. I have no idea. I assume they
PJ,
probably were, but I
if
don't
you
know.
could, there's a man up front here that's been raising his hand for the last.
Yeah, one there, 3 over here.
Nope, right here, please. I know there's a lot, but since I've been sitting up here, he's been raising his hand, so
Yes.
if we could, sir.
So from what I understand, the Deutsch brothers own the infrastructure.
Yes.
So I guess the first step would be to go to the owners of the infrastructure.
And that's probably an option as well for,
And as far as what
they're
we
gonna
have
do
to
anything.
is it gonna have to be, hey, Deutsch brothers, what do you want for your infrastructure? We're gonna have to buy it? Yeah, are you gonna give it to us? And the tower? I mean.
You got dirty water coming through there sometimes.
the bottom line, PJ, okay, so, if they wanna move forward and they don't wanna do these options, cause they believe it is, if I'm correct, let's just put this straightforward, and they believe that the Deutsch brothers should do it, they need to go to court with them. And have them take care of the infrastructure, do the grants, and do the things that we are telling these people that maybe, are their options. Is that their choice, is one of the, well, I shouldn't say that, is that their choice, PJ, because you're not, is that your choice? Is that how most people, you guys are developers, now I'll say you're developers, is that what most people do, is they move forward on going after the developer on the subdivisions? And if that's the choice, then, again, you guys are the people in charge out there, we're not.
And the issue is you have Valley View Incorporated that actually did it initially, and they've drained all the assets out of there. So you're talking to Deutsch Brothers. It's actually Valley Heights and Stage Incorporated that own everything, and at this time, that they're 10 cents. Here's the corporate veil in order to get to the assets that own.
And so there's your answer. So you're gonna sue somebody that has no asset? No, not, if you did, let's just put it hypothetically. And how do you get that if,
Can the county claim like eminent domain?
I don't know.
your senator back here, she would love to do that.
We're running along, but it's good conversation, but we really want to work towards, especially you guys, toward a solution. And there's a lot of different ideas in here, and I would definitely want to get to you and you guys in the back, because you've been waiting about like a half hour. But we do need a point of contact. Doesn't have to be one person, could be 2.
Well, we don't have a point of contact because we don't have a homeowners association, we don't have an organization within us. We don't have a.
Hold on. You have road district meetings, right? I know you hold those at the firehouse. Okay, so we got a volunteer in the back. We'll need your blood type and your fingerprints. So,
Thank you, so there's
Hold on
one,
second.
one step we're moving forward to.
Am I correct in understanding that, say, we would tie into the water system that is down by the mobile homes currently that are tying into Rapid Valley, that we wouldn't need a water tower?
Well, you'd need a booster pump.
Yeah,
That
but we
was one
wouldn't
of,
need the tower, that's the problem now.
I'm not an expert in that, but I don't think so. At one of the meetings, one of the Rapid City person, the Public Works person, said that one of the issues would be getting water to the higher elevated part of your subdivision, and it would require a booster pump. I'm assuming,
But if
No.
we work towards that with grant monies and an engineering study and all of that to bring it the extra 500 feet up the road, would that be a viable solution where we don't have to fix the water tower? We have to figure out how to get a booster station
An infrastructure to it.
and whatever. Yeah.
to me, that sounds like a logical thing to work towards, just because Rapid City is the one that can annex you. Whether they would be willing to do that, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Dale Tech, who's the Rapid City's Public Works Director, said that the East Rapid City Expansion Project, which is at Valley View, wouldn't be a viable alternative because we're at a higher elevation, require the booster pumping station. Additionally, though, the distribution system, you probably would know more about that, serving Valley Heights wasn't constructed to city specifications. So therefore, they'd require a complete reconstruction. DNR told me that was in the millions, so it's just not viable. So we need to go on a different solution.
hold on, one more back here. We're working through them here.
So I heard reference to the fact that there's an issue with the water tower, but it sounds like all that is purely speculative. Is that correct?
Yeah, nobody knows for sure.
And I'm familiar with the agreement, and I think everyone here should read this. And the agreement states that the city of Box Elder will provide maintenance to that tower. Ownership stayed with Valley Heights Estates, Inc.
Are you reading from the 2001 or from the
2007 agreement. And it said City of Box Elder will maintain that tower. So it sounds like we have a lot of speculation. We're getting way ahead of ourselves here. That we don't even know if there is an issue with the tower. There's speculation from, I think you said Bob Kaufman, who has concerns about the structural integrity, but the structural integrity has not been examined because it's underground. Someone needs to get in there and find out if there actually is an issue with the structural integrity of the tower. The infrastructure otherwise appears to be fine.
Well, the bottom line is if you have a point of contact, that's where we need to start.
I agree,
And
and I'm
then-
sitting here, and what I hear is,
Sure.
you guys need to form a homeowners association so that you have some governing body
Not yet.
to do something, or
No.
someone, there needs to be an
No.
entity that can deal with this.
Right now, it's a point of contact for someone to be able to take everybody's name in that area to contact of, okay, where are we going? And then through all your direction, you need to check the tower, you need to make sure the infrastructure, if there's an option through Rapid City. It said there wasn't an option through Rapid City. We heard that from Dale Tech, but I've heard that over and over again from the city and other, being in this city, that there was no option. Well, I would check it anyway. Because they said there was no option before when we did east of, on Box Elder's side. There's no way that was ever gonna be developed when I was in the city council. Look at it now. Because there wasn't enough water, there wasn't enough infrastructure. The infrastructure had to be redone. It's developed. So, where do you want to go from here? Your point of contact it needs to find, with your guys' help, the answers to the tower, the infrastructure, the loop that might be for water pressure, fire flow. if you can buy it from the Deutsch brothers, if you can, that's what a point of contact, and through the DENR and the water, Miss Aaron, through the water, districting, once you find those answers, maybe it's court, maybe it's one of the three areas. We're here today, we brought you all together so you could figure these things out. And if you needed our help on what direction, that's what we do for everybody, on how we move forward. If you decide what you decide is through DNR, we can help with Brittany, we can help with others of how that direction moves forward. We just need to know where you're going. Does that make sense? And is it through Box Elder? You're gonna find that out through your point of contact and through you guys, having someone to talk to about what's next and what you're gonna do. And keeping us informed with that is a good thing. Working with the mayor of Box Elder and the group there to figure out what's the answers is through your point of contact. That's why we keep saying that's important. And then if you need help through Aaron, through DNR, or Mike, they're here for you, and so are we. But I don't know all those answers because all I kept hearing at city council when we was there is about the tower and the infrastructure to that tower, and there needed to be something different for water source and a different tower because that tower was having issues and that was going to fall or do something else. Yeah, so the bottom line is go, we have a point of contact, where do you guys want to go from here? Mr. PJ, if they have a point of contact, what's next? Because that's what you were moving forward?
Yep, probably introduce himself. I think he volunteered. I already gave him my business card, but hold on, sir. But
I'll contact most of you guys. I'll probably talk to Ryan because he's got a list of everybody, so I can get contact information from him, and we'll go from there. I'm apparently smart, so I got volunteered.
And it doesn't have to be a homeowners association at this point. It just needs a point of contact where you have someone that's looking up the information so you're not guessing what's the next step or what's happening out there.
thank you. So that's good. Okay. That's the main thing that we needed, and that's really good. I know there's a couple people that have questions, but we got to wrap things up here real quick. So this gentleman's been patient, and I'll get to you. Okay.
So we've had a couple options as far as possibility of hooking up with Box Elder, possibility with Rapid City. Where's the rural cooperative water? Rural water system. You're talking 2 to 5 years. Where is that even an option? Is that a thought? Is rural water? I've lived
Brittany,
rural all my
you know
life in
anything
South
about that?
Dakota, and we've been hooked up with that in the past, and I know it's moving north from down south. And I guess that question is for all you folks. Does anybody know anything about that?
And just a question too, maybe you guys know, Rapid Valley Water District, where are they getting their water from? Where?
Valley?
From Rapid City as well?
I think so, but I really am not sure.
Thank you, Ms. Derry.
As far as the question while you were asked and we were looking around, we don't know the answer. But that's definitely a good question for you, sir, to take.
This is Mike Perkovich. As far as the rural water system from down south, they're still a little bit south of Hermosa, so that's not going to be an option.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll go one more question here.
My question, maybe more for Mayor Box Elder there, sir. When I moved into the house, which was many years ago, and I'd had conversations with Mike Deutsch and also Tommy Gunderson in the early 2000s about building the development. And to my understanding, when Mike Deutsch, as a well driller by trade, put up the tower, put in the infrastructure and everything, he signed the agreement with Box Elder, and I had not seen one. You said you're looking at the 2007 version, but my understanding from the start, before I even bought a lot and started building there, was that Box Elder had agreed to take care and to provide the water. And also, with the billing, I bought my meter from Box Elder, hooked up and paying my bill every month. And with that, was part of that cost of that water was to cover the testing and the maintenance of it, was my understanding from also Mike Deutsch as well. So where does the extra money on our, paying our water bill go to if it isn't to actually inspect and provide us water? It surely can't be that much for everybody here, just the cost to pump it up into that tower and say, we're done with you.
Well, it does require a booster pump to, you get it up the hill and stuff, so. Yeah, and as far as any of the other agreements that you mentioned talking to Deutsch, I honestly don't know. I wasn't involved in
You weren't
that.
there at the time. We had a meeting back in the early
Yeah.
2000s as well, out at the Rapid Valley Water District building. It happened to be off of 44 there. County commissioners and other ones were there. And Mayor Al Dial was at the time from Box Elder, and discussion of it too, like, you're getting this money from us, doesn't that money go into a pot, to take care of us? And I understand, of course, being elected and inherit the job, but it's still that question, where's that money go that we're paying for a water bill if it's not there to support us?
Just while I'm thinking of it, somebody had mentioned something about providing maintenance. What it actually says is the city of Box Elder will provide normal maintenance for said tower, exclusive of structural integrity issues of the tower, which will remain the obligation and responsibility of Valley Heights. So, we examine it. I know we just did that, and that's one of the things that is normal maintenance. Before my time, I honestly don't know. I just know we did it last year.
Let him speak, that's why we're here a little bit. Not beating him up and stuff. Beating him up, asking questions if you're gonna beat him up. Okay. And you speak.
Well, if they won't go up in it,
Since Box Elder signed the agreement in 2001 and 2007, except for they haven't maintained power like they're supposed to as per the agreement.
well, I'm not gonna, get into any kind of an argument about that. I don't know previous to, my tenure here, but I do know that we did have it. We tried to have it inspected, and they wouldn't do it because they didn't think it was safe to do. So. No, that doesn't have anything to do with it. The ladder.
Sir, we have other people, thank you. We appreciate your question. PJ, anybody else?
What about one in the back?
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Does anyone know who allowed the tower to be buried? I mean, clearly it was in the angle to the airport. So if the tower was at some point in the early 2000s brought down for the purpose of the airport, someone allowed that. That had to come with permits. We couldn't allow that. Somebody had to have zoned that or allowed it within the plot. So.
Right.
I don't know the answer to that one. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Terry's-
There's a lot to this, a lot of moving parts.
Terry, do you know? Miss Terry? No, okay. One more time, it's Terry.
I do just have a question. Do we, with all the mines, DNR and county and stuff, one of the solutions, if we're thinking even about developing our water district or something, do we work with the planning district, Black Hills Council local government, with DENR? I mean, where's the first step? We have a contact, what's even, when he walks out the room, does he contact Black Hills Council of Local Governments?
I'd say talk to Erin, and she would know some of that, and then she would probably know some of the contacts or where we move from there. Am I correct, Miss Erin?
Mike, are you still on the line?
Yeah, I am. I'm kind of having some weird feedback, but Black Hills Council, I think, would be a good resource. I don't know. I thought there might be a representative at the meeting. I don't know if there is or isn't. I guess one thing that I would say, somebody mentioned forming a homeowners association, and I think if you're going to get a planning grant to us, that requires, a contract and an agreement between some form formal party in DNR. I mean, so the homeowners association probably isn't a bad idea.
So, okay, you're breaking up bad, Mike, so.
Yeah, I know, I'm got.
Okay, now you're
feedback
good.
here.
So, point of contact is what they're looking for and, wanting to know, who to go to first.
Right, I guess I think it'd be kind of a two-pronged approach is to, again, form a homeowners association because we need to have some sort of a entity that has some sort of a structure that we can make an agreement with. We just can't make it with, somebody that's the point of contact. So, I think that's a good starting point. Then you're going to have to probably go out and interview a couple engineering firms to work with you to do a study and see what the structure or the condition of that tank is in and any other options. So, and again, I think the planning district, maybe farther down the road, they might be a little better resource, but certainly I think there's somebody that, you might want to talk to.
So Mike, I think what we're trying to say here.
Planning district there, you just don't know.
Sir, what we're trying to say, if we have a point of contact and we want some options, who in the DENR could give us those options moving forward? Am I correct, Terry? Instead of former homeowners, get some engineers, that's if at that point that we talk to one of your DENR contacts and then we move forward on those options. So do we just call you?
I would be a good contact, and if I'm not here, it would be Andy Brules would be the other person.
Okay, and you have both of those numbers for, I'm sorry, what was the man in the back that was the contact? What's your name again, sir? For Eric? So can you tell us those numbers?
Both of us can be reached through our main desk at 773-4216.
Thank you, sir. Is that where you were going, Miss Terry? Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say, it seems like shame on us for building out there and buying homes. This is what I've gotten a lot from this meeting, that we're going to be left holding the bag, which ultimately that's what we're being pushed to do. But the accountability on the state level and county level, wow. I mean, you guys are just pointing fingers back and forth, but boy, let's find a solution to this, and it's coming back on us as taxpayers, and it's absolutely ridiculous. But also, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask you this. We pay a golden fee for our water. And you talk about having a pump station built here soon, having that booster station to get us water. When we get a $300-400 bill, where is this money going to? Where is your cost association? You have no cost in the tower. You have no cost in the infrastructure. You have a pump station that's been there. You have wells that have been dug that have been there. Why such urgency to get us off your water? Because we're talking right now that you want to get us outsourced within 2 to 5 years. What is the urgency? I mean, are we not a profit center for the city of Box Elder? You're not getting our taxes, granted, but we are a profit center when it comes to the water. And lastly, isn't the water tower in city limits? So going back into the fact of the 2007 maintenance agreement, it's also on the city limits property. So where is your liability when it comes to that tower as well?
I don't know for sure. I'd have to check. It might be on the city limits. I don't know. But either way, it's not our tower, so.
Mr. Mayor, we have another question.
And I don't know that there's an urgency. You said there's an urgency to get you off in 2 to 5 years. I wouldn't say there's an urgency. We just, again, wanted to make you aware. We could have just said, well, heck with it. Let's just let it go and fall down, but we didn't. We did want to be proactive and make the Deutsch brothers aware, and hopefully they made you aware that that there is an issue there, and to be looking ahead. That's all.
Thank you. We have to wrap this up, you guys, but we are going to be here, or I will anyway. I don't know if the mayor has to leave right away, but
I already missed my other meeting.
so we appreciate everybody coming tonight. My number is 605, if you want to take it, 389-0100. 0395. And if you want to contact me or your contact, which is Eric, wants to contact me and need some help as well to move forward, and you're still having, I don't know how much I would do in one sense, but the other, I work hard at trying to find answers for people and giving direction. And PJ is very good for that and his planning staff as well. But I always can contact PJ from you guys calling me as well and moving this forward as well. And it would be nice to have Eric update me on some of the stuff moving forward, and how he's doing. And bottom line is, if he's asking direction, what's next? And he can contact me, he can contact PJ. We are not gonna find you the ultimate solution, you guys are. We're gonna give you directions of what those solutions are, and then you guys are gonna tell us what's next. And that's why we brought you here today, and we do care at Pennington County, and I believe the mayor does too. He inherited some of this, that's why he can't give you all the answers. But I'm sure in the future, from Eric and other people, we're gonna find more and more things that, and how to, by finding the answers, that's how you find the solutions. Right now, we have a lot of unanswered questions, whether it be the mayor, me, or anybody else. So that's the bottom line, and hopefully with Eric and others, that we can find what those answers are from those agreements, from what's the next step. But the main thing with that point of contact, that's what you need. Otherwise, this is flailing in the air and nobody's going anywhere. You're just gonna keep asking questions. So this is the first step, and this is why we got you together today. Mr. PJ, please.
So just as a reminder, there's copies of the items from the auditor's department for the sanitary district application, and also copies of the two exhibits from 2001 and 2007. So Eric, we look forward to working with you. I think I've worked with you when I had another job. Yeah. So that's good. Learning curve will go shorter. So everybody appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming tonight, and get home safely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime the green light's on,
Okay.
it is.
I was just gonna let everybody know, if you do need to get in contact with me, I have my phone number. It's 605. Is everybody ready?
I'm right.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, Eric's giving out his number.
This could be a good or a bad thing, I don't know yet. Okay, so it's 605-641-6080. And I live over on Sunlight Drive, Blue House. Yeah, I live right next to you guys, so. I'm actually gonna